Okay, hey everybody, welcome to this evening stream. So this evening we're going to be taking a look at some game creation. It's been a little while since we jumped in and actually made some games in Crayta with all the different events and all the different things we've been doing. So I figured what we're going to do is I'll spend a little bit of time building out a bit of a game. We're going to try and focus and use a few of the build a base game jam or build jam packages that we had. As I say, there's a huge amount of options there. So what I'll probably do is I'll only be taking a handful of them. Trying to pack too many in will really start to kind of throw off, what the game's about. So I'm only going to use, as I say, a handful, but I'd highly recommend anyone who hasn't already to go ahead and check out the list on the forum. All the package guides, there's a whole ton of different things there, and quite a wide variety of packages that really, a lot of them will work together quite nicely. There's some of the more technical ones which I'll probably leave alone today because they're probably really kind of quite powerful things. So a few of the ones I'm going to use are a little bit more kind of approachable, and hopefully by the end of the stream we'll have a bit of a game that works. That's sort of the running idea, so we'll see how well that goes. What I'm hoping to build is a bit of a sort of a team deathmatch shooter with some base building and some crafting elements to it. So we're going to be using things like Vincentec's fortresses, Mochi's crafting packages. I might try and use the base automation package in there somewhere, maybe Mighty's turrets. We've got a few options there for the various packages I'm going to try and use. As I say, it's going to be a little bit more laid back. It's just myself on stream tonight, so it's going to be, I might kick some music on at some point, and yeah, we just kind of go back to the old school game development streams. While I'm in the hub, I figured I'd point out a couple of little things. So obviously, if you haven't already been in the hub, do make sure you go check out the new Halloween version of the hub. It's a really kind of amazing work by Adam. Has done some really cool stuff around having kind of the haunted house event and all this sort of decoration that fits within Neon Coast, but is very very quite kind of spooky Halloween. Pretty cool. If you haven't already, make sure you go head out over and check out the latest issue of the comic. You can find that on the news billboard in the hub here as well, so you can open this and you can get the link there. If you head over to crayta.com/comic, you'll be able to see the latest issue, issue 8 from season 2, Smoke and Mirrors. So yeah, if you are into the comic, do make sure you head over and view the latest issue now. If you haven't already, as I say, go over to the haunted house. There's a little kind of minigame event running over there at the minute, so find the keys, collect the prizes. So there's a couple of outfits, or there's a couple of cosmetics available. You can see here we get the vampire face or punch. So not this outfit necessarily, but you do get this vampire face that I'm currently wearing right now. It feels quite appropriate for the sort of time of year we're at. And also over here we have a kind of a rotation of Halloween and spooky games that are kind of our curated list that rotate daily. So if you are looking for a spooky game to go and play either by yourself or with friends, then I highly recommend coming over to this part of the hub to come and check those things out. Cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and create our game. So I'm thinking something fairly straightforward rule set wise, so team deathmatch. And the kind of the objective is the players are essentially trying to build up a base to best protect their team and their spawn essentially. Or would maybe a capture the flag might work better? Yeah, I'm thinking actually let's go capture the flag, because I'm imagining you're trying to build your base to help protect your flag a little bit better. And it's always nice to have a bit more of an objective in this sort of thing. So we'll go from a starter game and we'll call this I'm going to call this Fortress. Imaginatively named. And yeah, that feels like a pretty good image for it. So let's go ahead and set that one in. As I say, it's going to be kind of a bit of a stream of two halves, perhaps. I think for the first half, I'm going to do a bit of the level building and using some of the art-based packages to kind of build out two opposing sort of bases. And then we'll go ahead and start adding some gameplay. So I'm imagining part of this will be like a resource gathering element. So we've got kind of the ability to go and collect items, collect resources, go ahead and craft various things with. So that crafting might get you a better weapon, it might get you some sort of shield, perhaps it will build barricades, and maybe even to the point where you could start building things like gun turrets for your base using Mighty's defense package. That's where we're kind of currently thinking with all that sort of stuff. Let's go ahead and start building out our map. So I'm going to do this in advanced mode. It's normally, as I say, it's pretty easy to access things. But obviously, a lot of what I'll do here, you can do through basic mode. Things like installing packages and checking them out and placing them in the world. But we'll go ahead and go through the advanced mode route. And to start with, let's have a look at the fort. I think if I put fortress, it'll appear. Military base, modular fortress, and buildings. So this was the package that actually won our recent build jam. If you did miss it and you are interested, if you're either watching this live or kind of catching up on demand, then do make sure you head over to Discord to kind of keep up to date with all the latest events that we have going on in game. So that's discord.gg/Crayta. You can find there's an itch page we've got where we ran this one. This was our kind of first big money prize build jam. This had a $50,000 prize pool associated to it, and Vincentec won top prize. So yeah, it only makes sense for us to try and do something with these buildings. So I'm imagining a bit slightly longer map than shorter. So let's create a slightly larger playing space, maybe not too much wider. Yeah, let's add that, and then we'll just slide this brush to this side. Okay, there we have slightly longer map. So we're going to need to reposition our flags, but let's go ahead and start looking at some of our sort of fortress pieces, and then we can get an idea for how we're going to build the level around that. What I might just do is I might just put the playlist on in the background. Obviously, let me know if that gets a little bit too loud or too quiet. Okay, so what I'll need to do as well is obviously I need to make sure that I create identical bases. Nice thing with capture the flag is if you always make sure your map is relatively symmetrical, especially when it comes to the base point of view. You want the players to kind of have a fair experience of defending their bases. So creating one base as a template and then having that on the other side is just a nice way to make sure that you can copy changes between the two. So these are the corridors. Okay, I'm imagining like an outer perimeter, probably what we want to start with. And then, yeah, plenty of these sort of outpost type parts. So maybe that can be one of these either side of like a main door. Entrance double. Yeah, there we go. That's pretty cool. And it looks like this has come with all the right sort of animations and stuff to just work out the box, which is really quite nice. I believe there's some walls here as well. I do have the examples I can kind of refer to as well. So that's a really nice thing about this package, and one of the things that we particularly enjoyed was the fact it comes with some really nicely put together examples, and it can give you sort of the idea of the component that we're looking for. So that whole side is that. Okay, so right, okay, so the edge of the base is built by the corridors. Okay, that makes sense. So in theory, then I could move that along. If I went for a short corridor here, click up to there. Okay, not the best use of that corner piece. So let's maybe remove those for now. What we could do, I guess, is I could have these as like slightly more forward positions. We could look to have a T shape here. That almost offers like a door at the front. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Resize this. I think the way I've kind of wedged it in here doesn't really work, but that's, you know, one of the nice things about using the packages in Crayta is you do get kind of a copy of them, so obviously you are then at license to essentially adjust them to kind of fit the purpose. So we remove that, kind of just remove this back a little bit. So that makes that a little bit easier to pass up into there. So this is a pretty decent sort of turret entrance. That part, so I'm going to take the same bunker piece and copy that across. And actually do the same with my E-junction bit. Okay, starting to come together. What I could probably do as well is start to cull some of these lights. I feel like I'm going to have quite a few of these in here, so start to make little optimizations, but perhaps, yeah, start to look at this. Make sure that you made a unique copy, Russ. That's a good point, actually. I'm wondering, yeah, because that's going to affect all of these, isn't it? It's a good tip. We'll see how that goes. Maybe I won't need to use too many more of these pieces. But we shall see. Right, what else? Again, looking over here. So I'm going to hopefully make use of some of these kind of little supply points and stuff. This wall piece is pretty good. Stairs long. That's going to be a good way of getting up onto the wall, and that just kind of has the corner sort of built into it. So I guess that just plonks you exactly where you need to be. So I probably want another long corridor here. Probably the other way. And then maybe if we stick a corner on as well. Okay, that's starting to take some shape. So was it a long corridor? And corner A. I imagine that's about the width I'm going to want on the whole map, so it might just fit actually. Oh, look at that. I think that's just about perfect. I'm like one voxel off, so let's make the whole thing one voxel wider. Also good practice to merged terrain. So do you mean merge the whole base to the terrain? I guess because it is all sat at right angles on the grid still. That'd save a lot of entity count. The only thing then is having a templated version of it that is copied across to the side wouldn't be quite so easy. I think I'm going to stick to having a template, but if that is a pretty good point in terms of having it sort of merge the terrain to kind of make it all a little bit less complicated on the voxel system. It works. Right, so that's my fortress front. That looks pretty intimidating. So we do need to be able to get up on the wall if we want to. So we're looking at the stairs, weren't we? So let's do short stairs, or the long stairs look pretty good because they. Oh, that was corridor. Stairs long. Yeah, sort of give us this a walkway that looks pretty good. Okay. Oh, do we get stairs? I guess there's not a flipped version of the stairs, is there? That's okay. What I could do is just sort of have them face the same way. It's not completely symmetrical, but as long as both bases are the same. Just one more across. Okay, so what I might just do to save a bit of sort of entity count is create like just a concrete wall that goes around the back. So cool. So I'm not really 100% decided on what the middle of the map's going to look like. So if anyone has any ideas of builder-based packages that they might like to see worked into sort of like the no man's land of the map. So kind of in here, but we could maybe throw in some various buildings, from Tumbak's buildings. I'm going to try and keep it all a little bit on theme. So there's some things that might not fit properly. Or do we want it to be more natural? Kind of want the ability to scavenge things, so maybe some of Tumbak's buildings, actually some of the sort of like industrial buildings and the scrapyard and stuff like that might look pretty cool, so maybe we'll have a play with those. Alright, let's just extract this big piece of terrain off the back. And rename it. I'm assuming this is a piece. Yep. I'll call this fortress back. Okay. Right, let's make this the same concrete. There we are. So a big old concrete wall. We can maybe start to style it a little bit later, but I think for now, I think that will do. Could place some things in here, I guess, as well. But I think the best plan. So where can the flag be? The flag kind of needs to be somewhere. Not well. I guess that could sit in the middle, and then perhaps the spawns could be in the tunnels. Because you want to always separate your spawn points from your flag to stop people from just spawning. It gives players a chance to just capture the flag, essentially. Yes, Tumbak's buildings, little town you need to defend. Tumbak's. Okay, so it seems like Tumbak's buildings are pretty demanded, so that's okay. I think that might make pretty good sense. So we'll go for a fortress on the other side, and then we'll do like a kind of like a town scene, I guess, in the middle. That's what works. Little Crayta, what is this game going to be? This is sort of a capture the flag. It's going to be a fairly simple rule set. What I'm hoping to do is a little bit of work with some crafting, so making use of Mochi's crafting package to maybe, everybody spawns with a pistol perhaps, then you have to as a team scavenge resources to be able to build better weapons, and maybe even if we have time or at some point in a future stream we'll have a look at getting Mighty's defense turrets in, so even as a team you can kind of start to pool resources to then defend your base with things like auto turrets and stuff. So that's the kind of working idea. So as I say, I mentioned at the start, we're only going to use a handful of the packages. There's only going to be maybe 4, 5, 6 packages we end up using. Trying to use all of them in one big game, it will just become a little bit unwieldy. Kind of a lot of templates. That's a lot of stuff for the editor to handle. But I'd highly recommend people try it. It's a really good experiment. A really nice way to kind of play with the packages, especially if you kind of couple it with a starter game. So in this case, capture the flag. I'm not having to spend much time doing any of the actual game logic. That's all going to be handled. I'm just essentially extending that base logic with some of these packages. And hopefully, we'll have something that we can play by the end of this stream. So in, an hour and a half, 2 hours time, we're going to have something that, is playable, which is always quite a cool place to be. Right, what I'm going to do now, before I get too carried away with this, is I'm going to delete this example. I'm going to try and package up all of these, or template up all of these things. So we want to have stairs, bunkers, fortress back, the doors, and all of the corridors and corners. It won't let me group those. I think that's probably a bit too complicated to auto group. So what I'll do is I'll drop a new locator somewhere over here. I'll try and get that central. And so something like that, and we'll call this our fortress. Okay, and then let's just start dragging things under that point. Oh, I think I did them all the wrong bit. I'm gonna go fortress, back, all of this stuff. Okay, so if I now move this, we should pick up everything. Yep, good. Okay, now let's make a template from this. So this is our fortress. Give that a sec to process that. Hopefully the editor can handle it. That was quite a lot of stuff to bring together. I would say I might get a server missing, but hopefully it can recover from this. I wondered why I didn't have the option to group from the tree sometimes. Yeah, I think I'm not sure of exactly what stops it from happening, but I think sometimes it can kind of pick up that there's a lot to do. Like there's a lot there to try and compact into one group. I don't know if it's to do with the number of types of things that are in there, or okay, looks like I might have pushed it a bit far with trying to template all of this into one thing. That crashes. That'll be the end of that. Unless we get back in 5 seconds, I think we're going to have to refresh. Okay, never mind. Cool. Well, that's going to kick me back into that game. What we'll probably do is start trying to strip some things out of it. That fortress I've made there. In terms of then trying to template that up, there's a lot of templates, a lot of lights, there's a lot of complexity. So that was kind of asking quite a lot of the editor to handle that for me. What I'll perhaps do, kind of worst case, is I'll just copy across the other side, and we'll just not have the template, and it will just mean we have to manually make any changes onto both sides, but that should be okay. Maybe the crash is for animation of doors. Ooh, tell me more. I know there's a lot going on here. Let's just get a rough idea where we're at with our end scans. So, yeah, it's pretty, only 240 odd entities at the minute, so we're definitely okay there. I'm getting an absolutely solid sort of, oh, so that showed me about 50 frames there. Yeah, I expect that's more to do with other things going on. You could have merged the buildings to the terrain, but then they wouldn't exist in the template, is what I was saying before. So I could merge them to the terrain, but then I can't template the entire building itself. Obviously, if I wanted to copy this whole base over to that side, if I'd merged it into the terrain, that wouldn't quite work, unless I had two, like the terrain in halves. Before I get too hung up on this, I say we can move on a little bit. I'm just going to, for now, let's just copy and paste. I just realised it hasn't saved since moving all the stuff into Fortress. Okay, so there's our Fortress there. So if I copy paste, oh, that's a lot of lights. Okay, maybe there's something in that then. Let me delete that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have a quick pass and just remove some of these lights, because I've got a feeling there's a few more lights in here that I'm going to need. Really nicely laid out kind of world tree. Kind of nice to kind of be able to unfold stuff like this. So, okay, so these are all casting proper lights. So let's do these. From the corners, I guess I'm going to want some lights inside. Maybe not on every single one. So if I get rid of that one, okay, let's go to this side and do the same. So I want to get rid of these couple of lights. Yeah, and this first one. Yeah. Here's my entryway, so I'm going to keep that light, but let's get rid of the one either side to keep it even. And then, yeah, I'll get rid of this first one on each end, and that's just going to hopefully trim some of that out to just kind of keep the performance up. As I say, like, they're perfectly valid to be there in the first place. So it depends what you're trying to achieve. When you're building, you know, a couple of big bases, you know, you want to start thinking about adding a lot of stuff to the middle. You really got to start thinking about what you really kind of need. So okay, hopefully that a little bit better for now. So let's spin that round. Position this right at the back of the level. Get rid of the little overhang here, because I want to make sure that we're even to the map. There we go. Cool, let's get an idea of scale. So, not too bad. If we've got plenty of stuff in the middle, I feel like, you know, that feels like a nice big map, but that's not too big. Not too frustrating to have to kind of navigate across from there. And we're getting a pretty good frame rate, and we're still sitting at the minute we're getting a solid, yeah, we're absolutely solid 60 frames running around in here. Oh yeah, the reason it was a bit lower before is your frame rate typically looks a bit lower if you're looking at it in advanced mode, because it's also having to render all of the UI around the edge, so your kind of average frame rate is going to be a little bit lower. If you want to get a kind of a good test, make sure you do go to basic mode, and you'll see here that I'm going to drop to an absolute flat line, 16 milliseconds. So that's, you know, kind of proving that that's 60 frames a second I'm getting here. So I'm still hitting a solid frame rate, as you can expect. I haven't really got much going on in the world. So let's have a look at getting some of. I keep typing the creators' names in there. So if I put buildings, I think we'll see. the ones from come back. Houses and buildings, there we go. If you want to see a little bit more about what these sort of packages do and offer, then do head over to the forum, so you can find this over at the developer site. A link to it, or it's forum.crayta.com. If you go to the package guides, and then at the top here you can search for various tags. So if you enter the builder base tag, you'll get a list of all of the different package guides that people have made. So for example here we can look for the houses and buildings. So we can find this one here and we can look, and then there's some really nice kind of package guides just to explain a little bit about what the package gives you, and kind of some nice screenshots, so you can start to decide, you know, which things you might want to combine before you even installed them into your game. One thing also, a lot of these kind of creators do some really nice showcases. So there's a lot of showcases available in the play side of Crayta, so you can go in and jump into kind of pre-made worlds and have a little look at how they all work. Thoughts that should be installed now. Let's go and have a look at what we might want to add. So again, we want to kind of make sure the map is fairly symmetrical, but I guess it's not super important. As long as things like resources are fairly evenly spread, I think that's the main point. So we would have got a whole bunch of things with this, and they're all these kind of building underscore is typically what they are. So things like industrial neighborhood, that might create quite a nice sort of centerpiece of the map. Or it's almost like you end up with a couple of lanes almost. So, you know, a lot of Capture the Flag games, you've got a couple of different routes that you want to go through, you know, not just a straight line sort of level. If you're carrying the flag, you kind of want the ability to run through kind of different approaches. You know, you take the left, take the right, take a high low route. Anything with this is the themes do clash a little bit, and the scale seems a little bit thrown off. So this fortress now looks kind of tiny compared to these buildings. So we'll see what we think. Apparently these buildings, what else could we do? The scrapyard I think would be pretty good. Again, it kind of dwarves the dwarves the fortresses a little bit. I think they could work. And again, this is a really nice route perhaps to be running through. I could open up a door at the back here somewhere to actually create like a proper through route. Maybe those two side by side with the two main sections of the map might work quite nicely. As the park as well. So you come out your base. Didn't seem to like that. You come out of your base and you will find yourselves in a park area. I mean, that looks pretty cool, right? There's, I think this could work if we don't think about it too much. Probably want to start combining some of these things together. And obviously filling up some of this space with various other things, but maybe the park right there. We've got the buildings just behind. And try and, like, you know, sort this corner out a bit. Maybe have it so they link together some way. Have a route through the back of the scrapyard. I've got room. Maybe I've got room to do the same with the park. This side. Maybe change the main color walls can fit more. Yeah, that's true. I think it's probably like the concrete and the red brick is what's colliding. But if I was to change the lean more into the red brick side of things, I just drop work like a brick-based fortress. Or perhaps a concrete-based set of buildings. That kind of works. I mean, these buildings sort of lose their setting a bit, but yeah, maybe that would be the way to do it. I can kind of combine them. It ends up very white, but let's roll with this. Let's see. Okay, you need to think about the edges of the map. What we want to do there. Yeah, and I could just run a concrete wall around the edge. Do we want to keep the parks like this? Do we want to offset them slightly? Just change the post-processing so it all matches. Yeah, that's not a bad idea actually. So I could do... yeah, I guess I could like just throw on something, I don't know, like a Technicolor off. So there we go. Look, everything matches, it's fine. Yeah, I wonder if there's just something in that though, like playing with it a little bit to help alleviate that. Ooh, I've always said I do want a map, a game to use outline. You kind of lose a little bit of the beauty of the packs, but then I don't know, maybe this works quite nicely actually. Don't have to worry so much about the way it sort of looks kind of on the way it looks. Like, you know, is it like I don't have to worry too much about the colour palette of the game then? Fortress looks really cool in this sort of light, and I think there's, you know, the geometry of the level, you know, with being a lot of straight lines, kind of really, I mean, that gets a bit noisy, the trees, but you know, maybe that could be a tactical point. I don't know, I think maybe there's something in this being outline. What do people think? I really like the way the fortress looks with this sort of as the outline. I do some sort of stylish things. Okay, let's just have a run around in this perspective. This street looks really cool as well. Again, like kind of a lot of the details still there, but that's not now missing, which is good. I do need to, yeah, I do need to add something to the edge of the level. Okay, let's go back and turn that off. And oh, I think there's something in that. So if I was to build, I need some sort of like detailed wall to make it clear where the edge of the level is. Make the wall sort of low enough, and also let's just throw that on. I also don't think I've seen any games that use sketch post-processing. Yeah, I think because they're quite intense, but I've always thought outline works quite nicely because it, provided the level suits it, you really do retain a lot of detail. You know, it doesn't suddenly become super hard to see what's going on, as long as I say, everything kind of works. Everything being like straight lines really helps. Checker pattern might work if you want to keep that outline. Wondering if this was this way. Might remove a couple of buildings from this to just make it a bit easier, but if I had like that sort of thing, like that's kind of a nice, the nice symmetry you'd expect from a capture the flag level. And obviously I can always make the level a bit longer if Wait, this base is facing the wrong. Oh, it's gone very horribly wrong here. What has happened to this? Right. I think let's delete this fortress. That was not happy. Not enjoying that being span around, is it? Yeah, we'll work on that in a minute. Not sure if that shows the boxes or not. Checker pattern might work if you want to keep that. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think it would show the individual lines on the voxel. It just kind of ignores the entire material and just shows you the sort of geometry of the voxels. Just feel like these fortresses have just become incredibly tiny with these like houses towering over the top of them. Am I trying to pack too much into a small level? Maybe if I just make the map a little bit bigger, that might be the way forward. We extend like that. Somehow become a parent of that one. Oh, I see. I copied the wrong. Okay. Need to copy this bit. You might need to select only the top fortress before spinning it. That's a good point, actually. I think if I had everything multi-selected by default, see if that works. I feel like there's something in this. I just got to try and get the positioning of it all correct. Okay, so copy paste. Hopefully you're right, Echo otherwise I'm going to have to rebuild this. Okay, yeah, good shout. I think, yeah, everything, I was spinning everything round internally and relatively, and that's why I was getting confused. Okay, cool. Hopefully that sits a bit better now. So we've got our stairs on the inside, that's all the right way around. We've got our scrapyard in the middle. We've got some more areas here. Okay, that's starting to look a bit more what I'm after. Then I can start to fill up little bits around the edge as well. So let's get our flags in the right place before I forget to do that. So blue flag in the middle of this base, along with blue spawn, but blue spawn can be over here, so you're not actually spawning where you can see the flag. And let's do another one on the other side. Okay, red flag goes to this side. Okay, and red spawn as well. So that's sorted out. Cool. Okay, so let's have a little look. If I press preview now, so we've got our spawns. We're going to kind of stick with the outline. We'll see how this looks. I'm not going to stick with the outline. Did I undo it? Maybe it's not respecting the settings. But that might be a bug. It should. Preview should ignore that checkbox. The only thing is it does make it difficult to see the exit. That's one thing. I need to make that clearer, but okay, so these doors, they just work. That's cool. Okay. So yeah, I do feel like the mismatch of these styles is kind of lost here, and it actually kind of works now. I think it's quite a nice way to use the packages together, you know, with the style clash, but having it very stylistically shown like this. This scrapyard looks really cool in this. Trees look okay. I think the parks get a bit noisy, but there's a few alleyways. We can start to add some more details, some more things. How did the edge look? Oh, I didn't add a wall all the way around, I don't think. Okay, let's have a look here. So it says change the terrain. What do you mean by change the terrain? A wall here somewhere. Okay, so I'm going to fill this space. I guess we can get this to be a bit more cool. Think about a door on this as well. So be in here. So if I get rid of this stuff, we'll cut a hole in the back. This made out of, I think this door is just some gates and voxels, so we'll do the same. Keep it on theme. No, it wasn't. It was the fence. Grab the metal. I think it was one of the new factory floors. Black panels. Paint that here. Cool. Okay, so that's one way through. So that's kind of a route that someone could take while capturing the flag. That works quite nicely. Can they climb out of it? That might be quite a nice way out as well if I break the wall down here. If that's smashed, we can always do the same, and actually this will be good because it will carry across the other park as well. How's it entity count looking? 1300. Okay, so we're getting pretty high, but we do have kind of a good chunk of levels sort of made here. I didn't know you were changing the post-process. I see. I wonder if adding a directional light without shadows or turning off sun shadows and blasting the skylight intensity maybe might affect the outline to void the shadows. How does neons look in the post-process or glass? Look, I think what you essentially end up with this is you do end up with just seeing the edges of voxels. You don't see any material, so regardless of what the material is, so for example if I made the floor neon, okay, that's all gone neon, that's all kind of gone crazy, but you can't tell at all here, like there's no light. Light doesn't mean anything, but sometimes that's quite nice, you know, it kind of frees you up to sort of concentrate on level design perhaps, and it sounds like I'm making a lazy excuse, but I think it does also and have a valid place in something like this. So as I say, I'm not having to spend time worrying about making it look like it all fits, but instead actually using it to create some quite cool effects when it comes to sort of level design. So I mean, this is quite noisy here, so I might want to remove that. This bush here. Okay. As I say, it might, I don't know if it'll work as like a hiding mechanic, because players are going to show up with this kind of this outline as well. So actually if I turn collision off on some of these, maybe hiding in there could work quite nicely. Those two got collision off, collision on that. Anything that the player's going to get stuck on, especially in this sort of post-process, I think is important to make sure it is not collidable, because otherwise it gets quite frustrating. That one, maybe we can, but yeah, I think we should remove that one. Okay, so now what we see is I'm able to kind of hide in here, and that I'm going to be really quite difficult to see, I think. Given the post process, I'm not going to have like my shiny shoes, for example, shining through. Yeah, I think from other players' perspectives, I'm not sure. This might look super obvious, but as a quick run through, you might get away with sneaking into that sort of area pretty quickly. Thinking now, you're never going to get away with that, are you? Okay, cool. Right. Well, we're at 8 o'clock. We're about halfway through. So I think what I might do now, press F5 for some reason, is have a look at getting some of the kind of gameplay mechanics in. So we'll assume that this level's okay, and we're kind of happy with it. So obviously there's always room for kind of more improvements and stuff. But okay, see the flags up here. Doors work quite nicely. So the level itself kind of works. As I say, I've not spent a huge amount of time on it, but I could spend a lot of time sort of refining it. I guess I want to add a few more bits to it. You can also very slightly grow and erode along the paths and walls so the edges show up. Well, that's a good idea, actually. Actually, I'll just do that quickly, just a test. So, yeah, what we're saying is here, so I could do an erosion up here at a really low strength. So we kind of get this outline up here now. Maybe even do similar things along like the floor as well. I feel like there's going to be a lot of signposting I'd need to do around the fortress to make sure that, it's not frustrating to try and get out of a corridor when it's all pretty blank. Let's just see how that appears. No, I left it off. Right, I can probably just check in the editor. But yeah, so we get that sort of effect now. I need to do. Yeah, there we go. So we kind of see. We get kind of a bit of a crumbled effect at the top of the walls, and that should hopefully help highlight some of those edges. Okay, let's turn that off. So what I want to do is I'm going to have a little look at setting up a couple of weapons, I think, to start with. And what I want to do is maybe have it so you have to go and find some resources and you can craft new weapons for your team. So how do we want to go about that? Probably a case of you can craft an item. Maybe you don't have to go back to your base, but maybe it's just a case of rather than being pickups, you find components. And then you have to find enough components to craft the gun. I think that's probably the MVP version of this, isn't it? So what I want to do first is let's go ahead and install the crafting package from Mochi. Okay, so let's see about adding make sure I add all the right things first. So I think let's go check the guide. But I kind of want to imagine, you run around, you find nuts and bolts, you find I don't know, some iron and something else. And once you combine those three things, or once you combine two of those things, you can create a pistol frame or like a pistol. And basically I want to go through kind of being able to find more things to craft more complex weapons. The crafting package here. So I think the main thing we need to do is drag the crafting world prompt scripts onto the user entity. I've already got prompts installed. I think what we're saying here is just add the widget. And add a crafting widget element, the widgets property, pseudo world. See what I do is I might make sure I get this right. So drag the crafting world prompt scripts template onto the user entity if you are not already using pseudo world prompts. Maybe pseudo world prompts is something else. Oh yeah, the package uses the pseudo world prompts package. Displaying prompts. Okay. Helps if I read the whole thing. So if I go to user. So, crafting world prompt scripts. Okay, so that's on the user. Drag the crafting org Crayta template. Not already one into the world. I'm going to call this hash crafting. That's going to keep it at the top of my world tree. And this is essentially where you can find, you configure all of the templates in your world. So at this point, I'm essentially going to create my recipes for various things. Yeah, Mochi, pseudo world prompts not the same as prompts. Yeah, I don't know why. I just saw the word pseudo and was like, oh, that you must mean the ones that come with the starter game. But yeah, no, I get that's obviously a different package. If I'd read the whole thing, I'd have got that first time. So it comes with without any recipes, so that's good. We can start to configure some of our own. So select the crafting material template from the world drop down, create a new template, current crafting material template. Navigate to the newly created template, select crafting material scripts, set a friendly name, a unique ID, and replace the mesh for it essentially. So, okay, so let's create two materials here. So we have our crafting material, the sort of the example one. So what we want to do is create a new template from this, and we'll call this nuts and bolts material. Okay, so this is now an instance of that said template. In fact, what I could do is just go and edit that template directly. Not butts and nuts. Nuts and bolts, okay. So instead of wood piece, what I'd end up with actually is a mesh, so I'd have to set up another trigger for it, I guess. Or what I could do. Okay, because this is a voxel mesh, I want to turn this into an actual mesh. I'm going to have to sort of play with this a little bit, I think. So. The tiny one. That's my nut and bolt. But if I try and drag that onto there, drag its link to the interact trigger template. Okay, well, what I could probably do actually then is just trigger. You can extrude away the wood piece and add a mesh to its shard. Okay, yeah, that might be the better way to do it. Rather than breaking the template too much. So, okay, let's try that. So, invisible voxel mesh essentially, but I've got this nuts and bolts as the child. So that kind of works. So what I need to do is I need to go into this script in here, and this is where you kind of configure the material itself. So smaller pieces will be nuts and bolts. ID is nuts and bolts. And yeah, okay, we'll keep that wood piece as its root kind of material. It's not a supply pile. Okay, so let's stop that. One of those there. So let's create a second ingredient. Because I've eroded away that voxel mesh, it now won't exist anywhere, which is why this looks blank. That's okay. I don't think I want the wood. Anyway, so that kind of suits me, makes it a bit easier going forward. Let's create a new thing. So what might we, let's think about what mesh we might combine nuts and bolts with to make, let's say, a pistol. Something simple. I guess we could just do like a big bullet. It's like you can buy nuts and bolts and a bullet and you get a gun. And then forgot to remove material underscore ID. That's not necessary anymore, I think. Ah, interesting. So is that not the unique ID? I think that isn't how you identify it back to the recipe, unless I've misunderstood something. Right, yeah, I think we'll just go for like an ammo. So we'll call this one okay, this one is going to be ammo material. Edit this. Okay, so we want to find a big ammo. Oh, we do, but that can be first like cannon ammo. So we want a big jumbo bullet in here. Position that in the middle. Ammo material. I think that'll do for now. Right, so now I've got the two things. I think what I need to do is I go to my recipes. Let's just double check in here. Let's have the new recipe folder and add in a crafting recipe script. New folder here, and this will be for weapons. Crafting recipe script, okay, and then essentially what we do now is we can kind of say, you know, recipe 1, material 1 and material 2 equals blank. In this case, we're going to say you can find a bullet, you find nuts and bolts, you're going to get, let's say, an AK. We'll get another gun, and we can maybe have everyone start with a pistol. So the point is you can kind of use your pistol, and then you can find resources to craft a better weapon that way. Oh, okay, so I see where this has changed. So material ID is now looking at, so you pick the templates instead of specifying the actual ID itself. So yeah, I guess the material ID isn't needed because you are picking the thing. So I'm going to say ammo material. Did I call my nuts and bolts one? I think I did I? I did call it material. classic case, so I do underscore sometimes, camel case other times, but naming them the same, like having the same thing, means it's easier to search this sort of list. So I could have put material and they would have appeared. Okay, but what you're going to get from this is a gun. Okay, that's cool. Right, so if I now place, okay, I can search material here to get filter list. So I've got my nuts and bolts, and I've got my bullet. Okay, those two things are placed there and they're all together. So now what do I need to do? I guess let's set up a pistol. So if I get a gun from here, and similarly let's create a new template based on the gun template, and we'll call this pistol. In fact, actually, let's not do that. I think it should be a pistol. Comes in the in the tab. So I'll grab this and I'll make this the default instead of the AK. Okay, so see if this works. So essentially, start with the pistol. We then have to scavenge the resources to create a gun, and that's kind of the basis of what we're going to do here. We'll create kind of more recipes. So if there's anything you can think we could try, add it. Right. Okay. So I think it was over this way somewhere. Probably should have put them at one of the spawns to make it a bit easier. Okay. Oh, not a valid recipe, not a valid recipe. Interesting. I should probably turn collision off on the meshes as well. Okay, why were they not valid? What have I done? Then I'll go check them in a minute. Oh, I forgot to add something on my player, that'd be what it is. Again, I haven't read the instructions fully. Entirely on me. So, craft a template. That crafter scripts on the player. Crafter scripts, yeah, okay. Okay, right, we'll try it with the outline on as well. Have a little look how easy it is to interact. Okay, they appear quite nicely against the background, and I think that's kind of one thing that is quite nice, is they're going to be quite easy to see. So I've got my nuts and bolts. So there's the first problem, I think, with having it as a child of that other route, is that it's not quite behaving. What I might do, I think if I turn carry off, the grip off, we shouldn't actually equip it. Okay, I think something, that relative position hold. Okay, something didn't agree with that, and I think that's probably to do with the way that we've made the meshes the child of a empty voxel mesh. So how can we fix that? Let's try doing it with turning the grip off on. I left the position and the rotation and stuff, but actually I don't really want it to attach to anything. So let's just double check. I'll get rid of the default, and I want to just see how we're handling if that is blank. Well, let's see what happens. This for nuts and bolts as well. Get rid of the grip. I think the final result needs to be a crafting material type. Ah, okay. So I can't just create a template. Well, let's see how this plays out. The wrong way around. But you know, as I said at the start, like this sort of thing's always an experiment, and that's kind of the nice thing you can do, you know, in Crayta, is be able to take other packages and start to sort of combine them into things that you want them to be. Okay, cool. So that I think probably didn't work purely because, okay, what I tried to craft wasn't a gun. So what I could do is, okay, let's try this a slightly different way then. So what I could craft is something like a token, and then you take that token to a ammo point or to a vendor of some sort and turn that into a gun. So that could work. That could be quite cool. Okay, so if let's say I add something here, I think it's like a supply point, yeah. Oh, that's much bigger than I expected it to be. I've got a feeling there was some smaller points. Reinforced, but maybe that would work. Maybe this could be like a little trader on the map that you can take your collected resources to. Try that. And that would, I think that's going to work better actually. Yeah, let's do the little explosive camp. Might work if you either made the gun a parent of the crafting template. Yeah, I think the problem then though, make the gun a parent of the crafting template. Yeah, we start to mess with the guns a bit in terms of what's a parent of what. This might be quite a nice little mechanic actually, like you kind of, you know, the crafting material that you produce is actually something that you then take to a vendor, to a trader. I'm going to try that little approach. So yeah, so I've got my these two materials. I've still got gun floating in space. Okay, so I've got these two materials here. So we're saying the third would also be a material, and maybe I can have it so, you know, if you take you could take 4 tokens to the shop, and that's how you get better guns. So it's, you are just looking for bolts and ammo to create tokens, and then the more tokens you trade in, the better the weapon. That's quite a cool little mechanic. So we want to add a new crafting material. And this will be a weapon token. We'll just use one of the coins for now, so let's drag that up there. Turn its collision off, okay. And its material name is weapon token. I'll do the ID just for completeness. Turn carry off on that. Okay, so that's my weapon token. I don't want one in the world. I'll find my nut and bolt. Tell you what, I'll move them actually. Move them in this camp. What I should really do is make these actually pick up spawners that kind of appear every so often. Whereas maybe you can add a few sidewalks to the empty places, that way we'll probably fill it all a bit more. Yeah, I can add a bit of 3D deepness. Yeah, I think at some point I'd want to kind of clean up this and add just more finer details to around here. Okay, so that's going to give me that. So let's update my craftable template here. Okay, that's going to give me a weapon token. I think that should work. Let's see how this behaves now. But like, I need the signs in there just for me. I built the thing. Okay, so it says drop weapon token. Ah. Okay, so I kind of have the weapon token just on me. Ah, it's on my feet, isn't it? Okay, so I think, yeah, it behaves slightly differently to the inventory. That's one thing I need to consider. Essentially, maybe it could be that if I drop it in here, or I can deposit weapon tokens back at base. I think there's going to be a little bit of code tweaking here for this package to kind of make sure it kind of works in the way that I'd like to use it, which again, it's perfectly encouraged. That's quite a good way of playing with the sort of system. Yeah, so how am I going to do this? So, man's got a deagle. I could add a trigger. So I'm going to create this. Let's break the link to that template and let's instead on the parents. I'm going to create like a whole new template of this. It's going to be I'll call it a token point. Try trigger. So something like this. So essentially what I'm thinking is if I enter this trigger, or if I drop an entity in this trigger, like this is kind of how I cash in tokens. This is what's attached to my users. So one thing I noticed is obviously when I equip something, if I haven't got a carry, it was taking the player to set to no grip. Let me see if I thought, oh, not material script, craft script. There we go. Fine, set no grip. I think this package is going to be one that does conflict with the inventory a little bit. Are we having a play along when it's done, Rust? Maybe not. I'm not sure I'm going to get much more done. It's probably not really going to properly work as a game. As I say, this has kind of been an experiment to just sort of see how these packages can sort of work together. Something I'd encourage everybody to have a go at. Trying to play with some of these packages from the builder base and start to kind of compile again together, obviously with more time, than a couple of hours we tend to spend on these streams. But yeah, so maybe not. I mean, if I get time, I'd like to spend a bit of time maybe refining this a bit and fleshing out the idea a touch, just to see how flexible some of these packages are from a kind of updating the code point of view. I feel like I don't want to get too into the weeds now of like trying to change this. I feel like I'm just going to break loads of stuff. But if I get some time, I'd like to kind of off stream perhaps sit and think about what I might do, and it'd be interesting to see kind of what other people might do. So if you take an idea, take a concept from one of the stream or one of the packages and start to kind of adjust the logic and see how usable it is from that point of view, that'd be really interesting. And as always, obviously let us know on Discord or how you get on. I'm thinking what I might do before I get too far into that. I've managed to get the package working, relatively straightforward. If I wasn't sort of rushing so much, I might have not made as many mistakes, but I've got a bit of a crafting system there, so we can find nuts and bolts on the level. We can collect them, and then obviously we can generate the tokens. I guess what I'd need to do now is just kind of get the crafting system to behave alongside the inventory system a little bit more. So perhaps instead of giving me a token in the way the crafting package does, perhaps once I've hit that point and I get the token, could then give something to my inventory, and then I can interface with other things a little bit easier. So again, it's just one way to sort of adjust that package to behave in a way that kind of suits, quite a specific need for what I need. But again, I've said it a couple of times already, but that's kind of the nice thing with Crayta here, is that you can take a package and then you really do have full control to kind of mold it and really do the changes that you want. So I'm not going to do the trigger depositing stuff now. I'm going to set that up so I've got kind of a note for that for next time. One thing I probably will do, and again, just show kind of why it's important to kind of think about how your templates come together, is actually what I've got here are two different materials. I've got my nuts and bolts and my ammo, but if you notice, what we did is that we actually made a template based on the material template. So now what I want to do is essentially turn these into collectibles. So instead of going to each individual one that I've made and making them essentially collectible, like a pickup with a respawn, I can go back to that master template that they're all created from, and it's sort of like an inheritance system. And I think what I'll do there is actually allow, if I update that one, it means that all those other templates that I made off of it will kind of inherit that change. So we'll see that in effect in a moment. Alex White says, "Hi guys, what game is this?" So this is just a little bit of a potentially a bit of a throwaway game. Hopefully something I can turn into something. But I just wanted to spend a bit of time experimenting with some of the packages that were made in the latest build jam, the builder-based jam. So we've got Enchantex fortresses, we've got Tumpak's buildings, we've got Mochi's crafting packages. There was a few more I wanted to try and add, but I think I'm going to run out of time. But there was the automation. I thought it might be quite nice to add some automated elements to the base. We've got Miteco's turrets. I thought might fit in this level quite well. There's all sorts of other little packages we could perhaps use. So I highly recommend people try this sort of exercise. It's a really nice way to kind of really quickly get some sort of games together, and who knows what sort of gameplay could spawn off the back of it. Mike says I'm going to update it so that if the final product doesn't have a crafting material script on it, it will just drop the template in front of the player. That's pretty good. I mean, it could drop the template in front of the player, or perhaps it could attempt to give the player, maybe you could have a checkbox on it on the recipe. Maybe the recipe could have a configurable option to say like add to inventory, and then you can check if the player has an inventory. You can just go through the traditional sort of enter scripts, add to inventory route. That might be quite nice. I think that'd be a really nice way for the crafting package to interface with some of the stock assets a little bit nicer. So if you do that, let me know, because then I probably won't worry too much about adding too much of my own logic, and actually I'll just wait for that update. And say it should be fairly straightforward, I imagine, because if the template that I assign as the result is set up to have things like an inventory view script and all the things that the inventory looks for, if I check that recipe to say give it to my inventory, then that would be a really handy way to handle all of that sort of stuff. So I'll leave that with you. Obviously, that'd be my recommendation. That'd be quite a nice way to update that, or dropping it in front of the player also works, and then perhaps I could have it drop in front of the player and then I could pick it up. It's quite a nice way to handle that as well. Okay, so before we go too far away, so I want to go to my materials. So what I'm going to do, instead of looking to update ammo material or nuts and bolts material, I'm going to update crafting material. So this is that parent template that they all inherit from. What I want to do is I want to add, I'm assuming I've got one in here, is a pickup spawner script. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to add that to the actual parent node here, and this should handle all of the logic around this whole entity actually appearing, disappearing, respawning, so on and so forth. So use the self as template. So when I pick this thing up, that's going to work there. Is this going to collide with the way that the interaction works? Let's have a little look at how interaction actually works. That is showing set prompts, get prompts. Okay, so that's all the prompt stuff. Pick up on the material script. Okay, so here is where we're handling the pickup. So what I could maybe do is interface this with the pickup spawner script to handle it appearing and things like that. Set collision. This is doing very similar things actually to the other one. So I wonder if what I could do is point the pickup spawner script to the pickup. But I don't want it to kind of give me anything, so I might tweak that in a moment, but I guess maybe it could do both. Have a play. So they're both going to call their pickup functions. I want this one to kind of just be my respawner. I don't want this to do the actual picking up on the players. So. On pickup send. So okay, what I might just do, I'm now is comment that section out, and I think that should just then basically come in. It will handle the picking up a certain amount of time. And then I want this one to not worry about reappearing. I'm not sure this would handle it reappearing, so that's okay, cool. See how that works. So what we should see now is when I look at these ones, we can see that that pickup spawner script has appeared on these two instances. So even though I haven't directly updated the template that these two belong to, because I've updated the one that they inherited from, that's then carried through, which is just a nice kind of way to keep the games nice and tidy. Much as I'll play with the inventory package, never used it before. Okay, it was a really kind of straightforward package to get the grips with what you want to do. But looking at the pickup spawner script is probably a good starting point, because I think that will kind of outline kind of how the real world entity kind of interfaces with the user. But it exists on the user. You've got the user script, you've got the inventory script on the user, which is sort of like the brains of the package. So it remembers what the user has, kind of the quantity, all those things. The main table is essentially on the user. Then you have the player view, so the inventory view stuff on the player, which controls the UI and what you actually see on screen. You know, what you've got selected, how much ammo you've got, all that sort of stuff. So there's two sides to it, but you'll probably want to have a look at the inventory script, which is on the user. And in this case, you'll want to do something fairly straightforward, and it's just a call. I find it here. Add to. Oh, I commented it out. But if you can find the inventory script on the user, and then you want to call add to inventory with the template, so that's just going to be the crafting template, the amount, so you know, in this case it would be 1, I assume, unless you want the recipe to specify more than 1. And then the flag you pass at the end, true or false, is just basically should this be automatically equipped. You might want to do some stuff around checking, like this will return true or false, this function, whether it actually added it or not. So in this case, you can see if it didn't work, so for example, if the inventory is full, it will return false. And so you might want to handle that, you know, in a certain way. Maybe you could have it that when you craft the item, it adds to the inventory, if that's checked in the recipe. If it isn't enough space, that's when it appears on the floor in front of the player with a message to say, you know, your inventory's full, but it did do the craft and kind of the thing exists in the world. So it should be fairly straightforward. You just want to call an add to inventory on the user and handle some error checking around that. Okay, so these are going to appear, so they are respawning. Let's say we want to show straight away. So without that, rather than do that there, let's do that on the master template again. So we want them to appear straight away. If you don't check show on init, it means that you need something in your world to determine when they appear. And actually, because we're in a starter game, I think we have a game controller event for this already. So yeah, we should see on round start we have a kind of an event already that should show everything after a delay. So what is the respawn time on these? 1 minute. So let's say they should appear within between 10 seconds and 30 seconds. Okay, so we should again see that that change carries across automatically. So you can see here that my 10 and 30 updated into these. So let's have a little look, see how that behaves. And then what we'll do is we'll just have a little play with that, and then we'll probably look to wrap this stream up. So didn't get as far as I thought, but it's been a pretty interesting exercise of trying to, you know, combine these various packages together. Okay, so they've appeared. And let's see, so I can't interact with that, so that's essentially hidden, which is good. There's no errors there, so we should see some point between the next 10 and 30 seconds, we should hopefully see those nuts and bolts reappear. if not, something didn't work. I don't think that worked. Wonder if that's something to do with what I commented out. Who knows? But anyway, I think that's probably a good point to wrap up. So I'm not sure I'm going to get too much further with this. Yeah, so it's been fun. It's been a good exercise of trying to combine some of these packages together, and it's kind of become a little bit of a mess. But coming into it, without a huge plan, like I wanted to try and do it like as genuinely as possible. Like I didn't want to plan a huge amount and then kind of just regurgitate what the plan was. I sort of wanted to just come in fresh. As a new creator would, and just sort of play with the packages and see what we can create. And I think playing with the shaders, the post processors, is quite a nice way of combining a couple of these sorts of different theme packs. So very different kind of scale and sizes, but you can sort of throw that off with kind of throwing things in, like the suggestion was to have the outline, in straight away you can be forgiven for certain things not quite looking like they should be together, because you kind of have that artistic flair to do so. So okay, I think that's probably a good point to wrap this stream up. So thank you everybody for joining in. It's been fun. It's always nice to just kind of get in and a way more casual stream, just mess around in the editor, do the stuff that that is hopefully the sort of thing that everybody's encouraged to do, especially after the end of a big build jam that we have, all these amazing new packages. So I'd highly recommend doing a similar exercise if you haven't already. So just maybe jump into the forum, pick 3 or 4 packages, see how they might kind of combine together, combine them with the starter game, and hopefully, with a little bit more time. I've only been doing this for about an hour and 45. You can really spend some time getting into kind of just in logic, getting into the code, making things work. So it's slightly different to how the package originally worked, but then you kind of come up with some unique ideas and stuff there. So do make sure you head over to Discord and let us know if you have any success making some great games out of all the packages. As always, you can subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Twitch. It'd be really helpful as we continue to build these platforms up and the presence of Crayta. We see a lot of Twitch streamers jumping into Crayta and playing along, and it's really nice to see. So yeah, do make sure you head over to Discord, and we've got some Twitch feed channels that kind of let you know when people go live. So it's always good to have people jump in to new streamers playing Crayta and sort of explain some of the things that might be missing, some of the games you might want to go and play, and always just jumping in and playing alongside them. It always works out. That'd be a pretty fun time. So, and obviously you can always find us on Twitter and Instagram, so at Crayta Game on both those platforms. Is a good way to keep up with all the latest news and stuff going on over there. And then, as I said a few times already, but do make sure, I highly encourage you to head over and join our Discord. So it's a really good place to chat with the community, get the heartbeat of what's going on inside Crayta, and find out all the latest news and events. We've got some more stuff coming up soon, so do make sure you stay tuned and make sure you tune in tomorrow, where AJ has a spooky play along. I believe Stuart's going to be joining him. There may or may not be some interesting news coming out of the stream tomorrow, so highly recommend you tune in tomorrow at the same time. That will be at 7 p.m. BST as usual, and they'll be, as I say, get your controllers ready because they'll be playing along a bunch of spooky games in Crayta. So thanks everybody for joining in. It's always nice to sort of do these solo streams, but actually have some chat going and people to kind of coordinate with. So as I say, get into Crayta, get downloading those packages, and start building some fantastic new games using all of those things at your disposal. And we'll see you tomorrow in the play along.